All right, we got Star Goddess on the line right now. This is the Star Goddess podcast we do each week on the Crash and AJ blog at 98rock.com. AJ's out for this one, so it's just you and I today.
All right, I like sharing.
There you go. Just you and me, and we're kind of continue the conversation from today, and then we're going to get into all 12 astrological signs for the week. But on the president's thing, Kanye West actually announced he's going to be running for president, and I'd like to continue that conversation of the presidents we've had over the past few years that people know about historically and what signs they are and what that means, Star Goddess, because what Kanye West is, what see is
He's a Gemini.
Gemini?
Like our current president. Yes, he's a Gemini, just like our current president is a Gemini. And the one that I think it's interesting, there are 12 signs in the zodiac, and since the 1988 is when George H.W. Bush was elected president, we've had 2 Geminis, 2 Leos, and a Cancer.
Oh.
12 signs in the zodiac. You think we would split it up among all of the different signs of the zodiac?
Wow, that's kind of interesting right there.
It is kind of interesting. And we tend to we've elected 5 Scorpios, we've elected 5 Libras, 5 Aquarians. And until Donald Trump, we had only elected 2 Geminis, and both of them have been in the 20th century, since 1960. So I think that's kind of interesting. And so we have a Gemini running for president. We've got Kanye, a Gemini, running for president. And Joe Biden, a Scorpio, running for president. So it should be interesting to see.
Yeah. I'm
not going to vote until I'm sure who's alive on Election day.
I got a feeling there's going to be other dark horses that pop up. That's the scary part
so
right
to
there.
Speak.
Who knows?
So to speak.
Who knows? All right, we'll get on with our weekly outlook here. And where are we starting with this one?
We're starting with the sign of Cancer because that's the sign that we're in. But the big news this week is Saturn, the planet of restriction and delay, has gone back into Capricorn. It kind of dipped into Aquarius in April and May and June, and now it's gone back into Capricorn. So what that tells the astrologer is stuff that you thought you had some sort of resolution for, had come to some sort of a conclusion or put to bed one way or the other, that we thought we had done in December, January, and February, comes back and rears its ugly head again. And depending on where it is, and it's stuff that you thought was done. And it turns out that it's not, that you get to finish it up or do it, or it's, the part B kind of deal to it. And it depends on where it is in your chart, says where you're going to have additional other duties or responsibilities. And so I think people need to know where that is so they can deal with it directly rather than dragging it out.
So is this always is it always something kind of, something you have to address, or is it anything positive or negative, or is it just something?
Yes, well, it depends. For some signs, it'll be positive. For some signs, it'll be negative. For the negative, the guys that aren't going to like it so much are the Aries, the Cancers, the Libras, and the Capricorns, because Saturn is in the sign of Capricorn. It squares Libra, it squares Aries, and it opposes Cancer. For the rest of them, it's really a mixed bag depending on where it is in your chart. For Cancers, for example, which is also the United States, Saturn has gone from our 8th house of other people's money back into our 7th house of partners, intimate one-to-one relationships, and our public image kind of a deal. And we really do need to kind of go out of our way to kind of repair our public image now that we're number 1 in the world with coronaviruses. And so for Cancers everywhere are going to be taking a hard look at their partners and seeing whether or not this partner is right for them. And this has been going on for Cancers for the last 2 years. And so now they're at the point where they have enough information. The last eclipse in their sign was yesterday, and they know whether to either go forward or be done. It's that kind of a thing that they've been waffling back and forth, not sure what to do. This week kind of gives them that indication of what they should do and where they should kind of pull the trigger on that and find out if people are either with you or against you. And to Cancers, my only concern is make sure you don't take what could be perfectly good allies and turn them into enemies. That's the big challenge with that is kind of need a scorecard to see who is who. But it has to do with their intimate one-to-one relationships and their rights and responsibilities inside that relationship.
Didn't you say we just close our borders to Mexico or something?
I know. Is that hilarious? Mexicans don't want us in anymore. It's one thing for the Europeans, but really Mexicans will go, nah, keep that stuff to yourself. I just think that's hilarious.
Great.
All the Mexicans that were trying to get into the United States are now going, no, never mind. We've changed our mind.
They're building a wall now. It's funny.
Yeah, to keep us out. I know. For Leos, this energy is in their 6th house of work, health, and responsibilities. And Leos have been, they tried really very much in December, January, and February to expand their job, to expand their responsibilities, to expand a bit with, or gotten additional other duties that they may not have really wanted, but have come to terms with. And now they're going to find over the next month or so is that going to be a full-time thing for them? It wasn't just, and they're debating whether or not that it's a responsibility that they want to continue. And they got enough information by yesterday's eclipse to figure out whether they do or don't. But it has to do with work and responsibilities and some little bit of health matters too. And it's just a matter of sort of narrowing down the jobs that you do to something you can really manage.
Okay.
You know, that kind of a thing, and getting some direct guidance on what you're going to do with it. Because it's sort of been like, we don't know, we're not sure, you know, and they'll have a lot more sure information over the next week or so about their responsibilities.
Can't be afraid to get a little consult, you know?
Yeah, especially being a Leo, you know, you want to, and again, it has to do with work rather than personal stuff.
Gotcha.
For Virgos, it's about how much fun can I have? It's about love, it's about romance, it's about creativity, it's about intimate love relationships. These are not necessarily friendships, but friendships that involve love in a physical sense. And for them, they're going to find out that, love really does have some staying power, you know, and that's kind of a nice thing for them. And they have been trying to bring forth a new child, either physically or a child of their mind, and they actually get to give that solid form now that they have a clear idea of what it is that they want it to be. They've been toying back and forth March, April, May, June. Should I not? But it literally goes forward for them this week, and they'll find out exactly how much of responsibility is entailed with this. And to Virgos everywhere, I have to say that whatever you give birth to is going to take on a life of its own, and you need to be ready for that it's not going to be a casual kind of a thing. It can be all-encompassing. It can actually turn into a full-time gig at the beginning of the year, which is kind of a cool thing for Virgos. So. Okay. For Libras, they're going to hate this energy, and I told them that last week, and I got some nasty letters from Libras. But Saturn has now gone into their fourth house of home and their foundations, and they really need to take a look around at the structures that support them, both in a physical sense, like your home and actually your physical home, but also in an esoteric sense of the emotional support that it is that you get. And if you find that you're not getting that, Libra, and you've weighed out, you know, do I stay, do I go, what do I do? You will now have enough information as of this weekend to know what you should do about that home situation.
Now wait, so you're going to get some information, even if it's like a relationship in itself, like if you're with a person. It does if it impacts your home, your foundations, where it is that you live. Yeah, it is. Okay. You know, and yesterday's eclipse was designed to bring all of that information because it was a full moon. And full moons always bring matters to some sort of a climax. And Libras have a terrible time making a decision. They're the sign of the balance. And so for them, everything has been just about equal. And when things are just about equal, they would rather not make a wrong decision. They would rather not make a decision at all than make a wrong decision. And so for them, they finally have enough information to go one way or the other. Okay.
And they'll know what they need to do at home. And to Libras, I say the hard decision is the one you have to make, and that's the least pleasant of all of them, which is why I don't think they're going to like this energy very, very much. So,
okay.
Let me be the bearer of bad news. For Scorpios, this is actually pretty good energy for Scorpios. Joe Biden is finding out that he could be very effective broadcasting from his basement. It's going to narrow and limit his day-to-day living. It's sort of the Scorpios everywhere have tried to get their day-to-day living down to something they can manage. I think more than any, they've resisted this new work from home kind of deal. And now Scorpios are finding everywhere that's not really a bad thing for them, that if they've had to change their mind about how they think about it, but they're going to have a much better structure to their day-to-day living. It'll be a lot easier for them to do their daily routines. I'm not sure what changes that makes that happen, but that's occurred over this last weekend. And they get the opportunity again for some sort of additional education. And they kind of turned it down in March and April, but they really do need to do that. And it'll be good for them in the long run. And this is not like getting a PhD or anything like that. It's some sort of additional education or additional training that can only work well for the Scorpio, and I think the Scorpio rules the police, and I think it's a good time for those guys to have some new training initiatives on.
That's a good point right there,
people. That kind of a thing, it's like, okay, maybe we want to find a better way to deal with this, that kind of a deal. So I think that's, I hope one of the positive things that comes out of all of this disruption is some sort of a plan, to be able, a cohesive plan that you can do, kind of across the board and say, here's a much better way to deal with this. I don't know what that answer is, but I think that Scorpios everywhere are trying to divine that right now, and this energy will help them do that. For Sagittarians, and I hate to tell you this is right about now is when I get thrown out of the studio, Saturn has gone from your third house of day-to-day living back into your second house of money. So it's a financial matter, and it's a restriction and delay having to do with finances. And my guess is you may have to write a check to the IRS for some taxes, some income taxes. I know, I hate it. Nothing I would rather do.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and send a check to the government. Although, if you don't want to do it, this is a good time to get away with it because you're not really auditing people anymore.
I will pay all of my taxes. If anybody's listening, I'm paying all of them. I'm not writing
all of my taxes.
That's
right. But that's literally, it's just sort of a narrowing down of finances a bit is what it is. It's a matter of finding a way to prioritize your finances and to find out what you really need and what you really don't need. That's the kind of thing where you go through your subscriptions and go, why am I paying for things I'm not using? That kind of a deal.
Yeah. So if you want to get your taxes done, now, when you get your taxes done, will that make a difference as opposed to this week or next week? I know that we're coming up on the deadline.
If I wanted to slide something by that wasn't quite kosher, I would do it this week. If I wanted to make sure that it was done once and for all, I would do it next week after Mercury went direct.
Gotcha.
So it depends on how you're trying to live your life. For Capricorn, Saturn has gone back into their sign, so it's additional responsibilities for Capricorns. And they're the one sign of the zodiac that goes, give it to me. I'm really good with responsibilities. They're the one sign that doesn't go, oh, no, responsibilities, what am I going to do? They go, bring it on. I would rather be the one to do it because I know that I will do it right. But it is much more responsibility for them. And it is something that they are very good at doing. So although, Saturn's back in their sign, the one sign that goes, bring it on, are Capricorn. So they're good with the additional other duties kind of a deal for them. So
I was just looking at the
for Aquarians.
I was just looking at some of the famous Capricorns in there. Benjamin Franklin was a Capricorn. I looked at Martin Luther King was a Capricorn. Muhammad Ali was a Capricorn. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Richard Nixon.
Jim Carrey. Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. And Capricorns, the thing I love about them is they don't quit. Even when they should, they don't quit. Their symbol is the mountain goat. And they climb, they find a mountain to climb it. And you can knock them down and they get up and they dust themselves off and they keep climbing. They never lose sight of the goal. They do. They're very, very determined. It's very hard to dissuade a Capricorn. And they're about the hardest workers in the zodiac. You were asking a question earlier about who would I pick as a handyman? I'd pick a Capricorn because they would do the job right.
Yeah, well, I asked.
They would do it right. They can.
Star Goddess, I asked Star Goddess, if you were doing home improvement projects, is there a particular sign that you would look for? You said stay away from Aries and Sagittarius on that, right?
Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Sagittarius have a hard time finishing what they start, as do Aries. Aries like to start a bunch of projects, and they're good at demolition. They're not good at putting stuff back together again. And Sagittarians say, why do today what you can put off till tomorrow?
Gotcha. So
I have several Sagittarian friends that do some stuff for me, and they count on me to crack the whip to make sure they get it because they know that, and because they drift from thing to thing to thing, and if they get distracted, they do that for a while and then kind of forget what they were there to drain the swamp kind of deal.
But there's a lot of people who think they're home improvement experts now, that there's time to work on some of this stuff because they've got more time at home. So if you're a Sagittarian, just go ahead and hire somebody else to do that.
Hire somebody who knows what they're doing, really. It'd be so much cheaper in the long run. For Aquarians, this energy, for them, Saturn had been in their sign, and it went there in March, April, May, and it gave them an idea about a whole bunch of responsibilities they were going to have, and they went, oh, my God, I'm not ready for any of this. So now that it's backed into Capricorn, they can try and find a way to avoid those responsibilities. If they can, either slip it off to somebody else or find a better way to deal with it. But they largely get a break from the responsibilities that have been headed their way. And they're really happy about that. It doesn't mean that they won't come back in the fall because Saturn gets back into Capricorn probably in December or so. But for the time being, they have been spared the onerous responsibilities that they dread so much. And I don't want them to think, I got away with it forever, because you're only going to get away with it for 6 months or so. But it gives them a little bit of time to come up with a plan to deal with it. Something that they can do that responsibility and still have the freedom that Aquarians need to change on a dime. They're the hardest sign of all to predict. I try never to predict Aquarians because they don't know what they're going to do until about 3 or 4 seconds before they do it. So how am I supposed to divine?
So Aquarians, basically, you got away with it for now. You got a time.
Yes, for now, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, but don't think it's a permanent reprieve.
Gotcha.
So what you want to do is, knowing that, you want to take a look at whatever that responsibility is and see who around you would do a better job doing it, and find a way to manipulate them into doing it for you.
Okay.
Almost like Tom Sawyer, saying, can you help me paint this fence?
Gotcha.
And then having somebody take it over. For Pisces, this is really very favorable energy for Pisces. Pisces gets the chance to organize their friends and colleagues to help the Pisces get whatever it is the Pisces wants. And the Pisces has to take the long view of this. So what they're going to do is kind of set their friends or their group or their colleagues
Okay.
To pull together to do something that looks like it's going to serve the group, but it ends up serving the Pisces needs in 2 years. So the Pisces wants to play the long game here with their group associations rather than the short game. So, and it will help. The group is going to help the Pisces get what it is the Pisces wants. So, and it's going to look like it's good for the group, but it's really very, very good for the Pisces. So you got to like that in a sign. For Aries, they are going to hate this energy. They have, first of all, Mars is in Aries right now, so they are fired up. They're mad as hell. They're not going to take it anymore, kind of a deal. And then Saturn in the 10th house, going into their 10th house of career and public standing, says, oh, yeah, well, here's the consequence to that action. There are professional consequences. There's professional consolidation going on. They thought they had escaped it, and they find out now that it's back with a vengeance. So they are going to have to work to prove to the powers that be why they need to be kept and why they're such a valuable asset to the company, instead of just presuming that they are.
So people aren't going to. If you're a Aries, you're going to felt like your value is not there. Is that the way you're, or is your
yes,
somebody
you
else?
You are going to feel that. Yes. Well, yes, and you're going to be righteously indignant about why you're not getting what it is that you need. And it's because you kind of let stuff slide March, April, and May thinking, ooh, I got this.
Yeah.
And you find out, yeah, no, not so much. You don't have it. So I just think that there is some, and again, this has to do a lot with America, the circumstance America finds itself in and laid off. We were talking earlier about how many companies are laying off people and not necessarily hiring new ones and that kind of a deal. So you're really going to have to, instead of assuming Aries that you're a valued asset to your company, you're going to have to prove to that company why you are a valued asset. And it can't just be talk. There's got to be some sort of production that goes along with it.
Aries got to prove it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, they got to prove it. For Tauruses, this is great energy for Taurus. Legal matters go well for them. Educational matters, contracts, any kind of negotiations, any kind of agreements, very, very favorable for the Taurus. And the Taurus gets let out of some really narrowing and inhibiting circumstance that they've been in. They didn't really know what to do about it. And mercifully, it's just kind of gone away, which is, I think, one of the coolest things ever. Unlike the coronavirus, that is not going to go away. For Tauruses, at least for 4 or 5 months or so, whatever that pressure was is off. And they get to renegotiate a better deal for themselves.
So it's time to strike up a deal.
Yeah, and they can cut themselves a pretty good deal out.
Okay.
And they did something that they didn't think they were going to be able to do in March, April, and May. But now in July, it turns out that they can. And it can work very well within them. It can work very well for them. For the Taurus comes out ahead. And sorry, AJ isn't here to hear that, because I would really like to tell her that.
I'll pass it on to her. I'm taking notes right now.
There you go. And then for Gemini, the last time we're going to talk about, it has gone from the 9th house of long-distance travel, the law, big-time communications, back into the 8th house of other people's resources. And Geminis everywhere are going to find out that their resources are a bit more finite than they think. They think they have greater resources than they do. And also, it's a good time for Geminis to drag their fears out and see what scares them and come up with a plan to deal with it. It's one thing, you just don't want to stay in one spot quivering, scared because you don't know what to do. Drag out your worst-case scenario and go, okay, if that happens, what will I do to deal with that?
So you need a backup plan.
Yeah, plan B, even a plan C if I was a Gemini. But the big thing is they need to realize that they are going to be cut off from accustomed sources of income. And even the United States, because our rising sign is Gemini, is seeing this. There's not a lot of taxes being paid. States are finding out that, states like Florida that rely on sales tax, people aren't buying as much stuff, so there's not as much revenue coming in, that kind of a deal. So it's dealing with resources that are more finite than you think. And rather than have it scare you, take a hard look at it and figure out what you're going to do about it. Come up with a plan to deal with it. Worst case scenario. Gotcha. And then if something less than the worst case scenario comes up, you go, oh, shoot, wasn't that bad?
I was prepared for
this. Case scenario.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So that's tomorrow's news today for the 12 signs of the zodiac, with Saturn, the planet of restrictions and delay, going back into Capricorn, sort of where it was in February and March. And you can see that even with the coronavirus. Everything was, the coronavirus, March and April. And then it kind of faded away a bit, and now it's kind of back with a vengeance. So that kind of a deal.
All right.
Yeah, tomorrow's news today for the 12 signs of the zodiac. Stay safe. That's the big thing.
We'll pop this up on the Crash and AJ blog as we always do every Monday. And, of course, Star Goddess back next Monday live on 98 Rock. Thank you very much, Star Goddess. Have a great week.